Welcome into the Big Chief Show on Chief Studios. I'm your host, Fred Davis, alongside the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Raider fanatic, and just all-around good dude. Look, if you need oil, gas, or just, any kind of flammable product, this is the guy. This is the guy to get you taken care of, the one, the only, Bitter Mike Babbo. Bitter Mike, look, you were in Nashville last week, okay? We had to do your picks, which we're going to get to here in a little bit. But, we went, we had Henry's birthday last week. We were doing it live from Casa de Tomas. You were in Cashville doing your thing, back in San Antonio, but you're back on a plane tomorrow. We know you're not going to be on one of those where it sucks people out, so that's a good thing to know. But, again, let's real quick. What's the state of Raider Nation right now? You gave me a little bit of an update. I didn't realize they'd already, interviewed 2 minority candidates.
Yes, sir.
So, ideally, with the internet, with the media, with socials, look, the only person, or let's put it this way, I haven't seen anybody say the Raiders shouldn't hire Antonio Pierce, and that's with the group of folks that we have, maybe one of the most impressive coaching resumes that we've seen available, age being a factor, I get, but the resume is still the resume. All that being said, Antonio Pierce is still the leader of the clubhouse.
Yeah, he's a leading horse for sure. I think the ducks are in the row for him because the Raiders yesterday conducted an in-person interview with longtime assistant coach Chris Richard. He's 44 years old. He has coached with the Seahawks, the Cowboys, and the Saints, and this on the heels of.
Did he play?
You know what? I don't know. I just know that he has been an assistant for several teams.
Okay.
Most recently, the Seahawks. This on the heels of not interviewing. I think they did a Zoom interview with Leslie Frazier back on Monday. And so now the stage has been set. It's been clear because they have satisfied the Rooney Rule in interviewing 2 head coaching candidates who are minorities. Quite frankly, I think they should have counted AP as one of those minority candidates.
Well, I'm kind of surprised. That was going to be my next question, but I mean,
maybe because they have to be outside the building. I don't know. The interesting thing is I saw on Twitter, and I'm not sure how true this is that Champ Kelly was sitting in on the interview process for these 2 head coaching interviews. And he doesn't even have the job yet, but technically he's still the interim GM. So I guess that's the way to get around it.
Yeah.
Also, Mark Davis.
Somebody's got to do the interview, right?
What's that?
I mean, somebody's got to do the interview, right?
Well, I mean, you had Richard Seymour involved in it. You had the president. What was her name? Of course, Mark Davis was in on it.
Sure.
The president, Sandra Douglas Morgan, board member Larry Delson, SVP Tom Delaney, Ken Herrick, who was an advisor of Mark Davis. But also, this could have been a kind of an odd-in-the-job interview for Champ Kelly himself and see what kind of questions he asks. Yeah. See if he can peel back the onion on a head coaching candidate. Because let's face it, I mean, they need a brain trust. And there's also some speculation that Mark Davis will hire a president of football operations to run the ins and outs of, making sure that all the pieces in place behind the scenes, making sure the pro-player personnel department is square, the scouting department is square. There's a lot of things that go on that Mike Mayock, frankly, when he left a decimated organization. He really didn't hire anybody. And so behind the scenes, Dave Ziegler.
One thing I'll say about that, Mike, is you don't know what he was and wasn't allowed to do.
Oh, no question about it.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing, because look, I'm a Mike Mayock guy. I've always thought he did a great job on TV. You just wonder did he go into that, and again, hindsight's always 20/20, but you just wonder, did he go into that job thinking, all right, I'm going to get a chance to actually do, be a GM, and then, of course, he worked with John Gruden, and Gruden was based,
Well, keep in mind, Fred, that Gruden was brought in a year before. Okay, he still had Reggie McKenzie as his GM, who then ended up being a de facto a lame duck, whatever you want to call it. But he was he was an empty suit. I mean, all due respect to Reggie McKenzie, I think he did a very good job his first few years. His first draft wasn't so great, but his first draft wasn't so great. But then he drafted Khalil Mack out of Buffalo, and you know what kind of a monster he is. You know, let's face it. I mean, he drafted Derek Carr out of the second round. I mean, he ended up being, you know, the first 5 years, you know, up until his ankle injury in 2016.
We drafted Max Crosby too, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, that was his last draft in 2019. Okay. So, but Mike Mayock was brought in a year after, and everybody knew who was running the show, especially the first 3 rounds. It was John Gruden. We just don't know how much say that Mike Mayock had behind the scenes. Maybe John Gruden didn't want to mess with, you know, the scouting department. Maybe he didn't want to mess with, you know, dealing with salary caps and shit like that. He let Mayock do the you know, the unforgivable or the dirty work. You know, whereas, you know, John Gruden got all the glory and all the pub and stuff like that for the first 3 rounds of each draft, in which were, you know, by all accounts, were fucking abject disaster. But anyway, so but if you read some of the articles, especially the expose in Sports Illustrated, the front office was just really kind of a mess. It was just a shell of what every other front office in the National Football League looks like. And Dave Ziegler, along with Champ Kelly, did a lot to correct that. And so I think a lot like AP, what AP said, whereas AP's his resume is on the grass, Champ Kelly's resume is in the office. So I think that I'm actually kind of surprised the Raider Nation is a little bit surprised that the announcement hasn't been made already. I think something will happen by the end of the week. The fact that they haven't even scheduled an interview with Jim Harbaugh, the fact that they haven't scheduled an interview with Dan Quinn or anybody else, really just 2 guys, 2 assistants, and 1 guy, Chris Richard. Let's face it, nobody ever heard of him before in Raider Nation or anybody else, aside from the inner circles of the NFL, really never heard of him. He got an interview, and I think they're just checking boxes, really, just to.
No, I think it's a lot of what it is. I think it's a lot of what it is.
I'm hopeful, really, because a lot of people look. They point to his inexperience. God damn it! I mean, but the thing is that again, you talk to Steve Spagnuolo, a guy you respect, all right, very well respected within the NFL. Tom Coughlin, very well respected in the NFL. Both those guys coached AP, and they both said he's one of the smartest players I ever coached, and he was always the smartest player on the field. The guy's a quick learner, okay, and he's a motivator. I mean, those guys, and look, and I'm not worried about what Max Crosby said. Max Crosby is well within his rights to say, you know what, I got to explore all my options. You know, I mean, he's not saying, he's not demanding a trade, but he's sick and tired of it. He's sick and tired of the constant revolving door of head coaches, GMs, and front offices. He wants to win. He said that time and time again in that podcast. I want to win. I want to be here. I want to be a Raider for life. He's the epitome of the silver and black, but he's sick and tired of the losing. He's sick and tired of the constant flux. You know, he wants – look, those guys, they'll run through a brick wall for AP. I mean, they did it. I mean, how many freaking times do you hear a fan base chanting a head coach's name? Never.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think it's AP's job to lose, and I think, like you said, your boy, I mean, unless you're bringing in a Mike Vrabel, which, you know, like I joked around with Henry last week, I said, you know, could you make the argument that, you know, AP's the black Vrabel and Vrabel's the white AP? I mean, you know, I don't know that there's a lot of difference between the two. Obviously, Vrabel's got more pelts on the wall than our boy AP does, but, you know, I think, like you said, given everything, and look, when you highlight what happened with Rich Bisaccia and how you basically, you know, set your team back 2 years, because look, I don't think it's a coincidence that when you look at that Green Bay Packer team, and for as much as they've gone through in the last couple seasons, it's still been a pretty well-coached team, and Rich Bisaccia is a big part of that, right? I mean, being on that special team. So, you know, and you know, and again, for how well received he was in the Raider locker room, again, that sort of thing travels, and there's no reason to think that for a Green Bay team, which, oh, by the way, real quick, Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, neither one of them led the Green Bay Packers to a playoff appearance when they made their first year starting as NFL quarterbacks. Now, we know what they went on to do, and there's no complaining about that. We all know what their places are in history. But just a little love for our boy Jordan Love for what he was able to do. But again, on the back end of that, you got your boy Rich Bisaccia. So
if I can say one more thing about the comparison between Rich Bisaccia and Antonio Pierce. I think Rich Bisaccia had it easier. For one, it was the place wasn't dysfunctional. Okay, John Gruden. I was not a big John Gruden fan, but at least that team was 3-2, and he had him playing pretty well.
And he ran a tight ship too.
And he ran a tight ship, and he was an offensive mind. And Rich Bisaccia, when he took over as a special teams coach, you are exposed to more players throughout the entire roster. You're exposed to all of them, right? And so he had a relationship with all of those players. Fast forward 2 years, Antonio Pierce took over a sinking ship that was dysfunctional, okay? And he was a defensive coach, and he was a linebackers coach. Okay, he wasn't the special teams coordinator where he was just like, I think Bisaccia was actually listed as the assistant head coach, whereas
I think he was.
Whereas Antonio Pierce leapfrogged his boss to become his boss, and that's not an easy thing to do either, right? It takes a special kind of individual to say, you know what, I'm not working for you anymore. Now you're working for me, and so I've got to, Patrick Graham, I've got to bring you along and make sure that there's no bad blood here and get this thing rolling from this, mess that I have been left with. You did a phenomenal job. I mean, he had a tougher mountain to climb for sure than Rich Bisaccia.
I don't disagree with you. At the same time too, though, I think it was also a huge part of addition by subtraction, though, because I think I think the dysfunction left with Josh McDaniels, right? Like, I think once he left, the group itself was not a bad group. I mean, we saw that down the stretch. I mean, they went 5-4 down the stretch with a very pedestrian, porno stash rookie quarterback, right? So, I think once your boy J McD was gone, and let's call it what it is. I mean, Antonio Pierce, is from a, dare I say, and again, I don't know Champ Kelly and I don't know Patrick Graham, maybe to the extent that you do, but, to the average NFL football fan, we know who the fuck Antonio Pierce is, right? Like, know who Antonio Pierce is. So, look, you're in good shape. And I think, I think that's going to come to a head here pretty soon. Other coaching jobs, look, Jared Mayo was named head coach. That officially was announced today. We also saw that our boy Bill Belichick has interviewed with both the he's already done 2 interviews. Who else did he interview with? He interviewed with the Falcons, and then I think. I'm sorry. The Falcons have interviewed 2 people. They interviewed both Belichick as well as Jim Harbaugh. And
I thought they interviewed Antonio Pierce as well.
No, that was the Titans.
Well, the Titans, but I also saw the Titans.
The Falcons may have. I don't know. I didn't see that. I just know I thought I saw Harbaugh and Belichick.
Yeah, I thought I saw Antonio Pierce interviewed or was scheduled to interview with both the Falcons and the Titans. I thought Belichick was also going to interview with the Chargers.
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen anything. I mean, I listen to radio. I mean, from what I listen to all day today, there's been no movement really. A lot of them chatter today has basically just been about, now there was apparently there was something thrown out on First Take today. Apparently there's some light rumblings about the Jets possibly jumping into the Bill Belichick sweepstakes. Because look, if you're Aaron Rodgers, after what you saw this past season, do you trust Robert Saleh? Because I know I certainly wouldn't. And if you told me that Bill Belichick, which from what I've read, and apparently there's an article in the Athletic, and of course the hot thing right now is all the reporting on, while they provided a united front last week, when they let Belichick go, apparently there was a lot more friction behind the scenes, and allegedly Belichick wanted to trade Mac Jones last year, and the Kraft said no. And then he brought it up again in the offseason, and they said, let's bring in a real offensive coordinator and see how that changes things. Apparently, Belichick's never been a fan of Mac Jones, didn't like him, didn't think he had what it took, and as a fuck you to the Krafts, left him in the last 4 or 5 games before he got benched because he didn't want to start him, but it was his way of saying, you know what, if the Kraft, you guys want this guy so bad, here you go.
I will burn this organization and save it. So I'm going to
you know, I mean, that's it. So, you know, Belichick knew he was out, and he said, all right, that's how we're going to do things? Okay, great. 20 years down the drain, there you go. See you later. We'll see Mac Jones. So it'll be like I said, you still got the Titans job out there. Again, nobody has, outside of the Patriots, nobody has named a new head coach. And then, of course, Philadelphia still kind of, we're up in the air as to whether they're going to do anything. We're up in the air as to whether the Dallas Cowboys will do anything. So a lot of moving parts still going on over these
right. And you also you have some brain trust positions open too. I mean, the Saints have fired their entire offensive staff.
I saw that.
The Philadelphia Eagles are looking
really
for new
matter though. I mean, what are you going to do with freaking Derek Carr?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, they know they're stuck with him for at least 2 more years.
Yeah.
Because the cap figure is so astronomical. Philadelphia is looking for a new defensive coordinator. I think now the narrative is, you know, they gave up on their first D coordinator way too soon, you know, because they were decimated with injuries, and they left it up to Matt Patricia, and he tried to change the entire scheme.
Got worse.
You know, with 6 weeks left in the season, and it just got absolutely worse.
Idiotic.
You know,
idiotic.
It was dumb. So we'll see. You know, Ben Johnson's going to get some love, the offensive coordinator for Detroit.
Look, he gets to pick. I mean, look, let's call it what it is. He can pick wherever he wants to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
there's still Jim Harbaugh hanging out there. I mean, even though he's under contract with the Michigan Wolverines, of course,
nobody seems to care.
No one really does seem to care, least of all him. You know, although he's not really saying much of anything. But you know, either way,
well, but he didn't really, but he didn't really need to, right? I mean,
no, and then of course Dan Quinn is, you know, he's got at least 4 interviews set up. Odds are, you know, he's going to go to Seattle to replace, you know, his longtime boss Pete Carroll out there. But although he didn't do himself any favors after what the Cowboys.
I was going to say that much ballyhoo defense that we heard. So you know, there's going to be the difference this year. They were an abject failure against the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I mean, you look at the Cowboys, and we're getting to the playoff and what happened in the Super Wildcard round. Look, the Cowboys were a fraud. I mean, flat out. They were 4-4. Hang on, they were 4-4 against teams with a winning record. And they only had 2 quality wins all year long, right? The home game against Philadelphia, and then the squeaker against Detroit in Week 16. I believe that's what it was, and it was a 2-point win.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it. You know. Other than that, I mean, against Philadelphia in Philly, they lost by 15 points, and then of course they went to San Francisco and got fucking pasted like 42-10.
Yeah, but look. Well, I don't disagree on the surface. Yes, the Cowboys, but this was they weren't supposed to get mutilated at home, right?
No.
Home, like the Cowboy, like AT&T Stadium was the one place. Yeah. They were 8-0. They were
10-0. They won their last 16 at home.
Well, that's right, and so fine, because let's call it what it is, Mike. You know, for the last couple of years, the conversation's been, well, AT&T is really not that inviting of a home place because it's so big, and because everybody from the other team shows up. But it had been a legit, bona fide home field advantage for the Cowboys, especially this season. And then to go out, especially in a game where it was like, look, you guys are going to get another home game if you win. You're going to have 2. So you're going to play 2 games at home if you handle your business, and then you're going to go to San Fran, where if you take care of business those first 2 games, you should be in good shape going into that NFC Championship, and then all bets are off. But, you know, that didn't happen, and now you got Mike McCarthy, who you know, that whole – look, Dak ain't it. No. Okay, I said that last year. I've said that the year before. And you know, we're past this point where, you know, during the regular season, you know, Dak's doing that. Fuck Dak. Okay, let's just call it what it is, man. Again, great. He's great in the regular season, okay? But guess what? If him and Kirk Cousins are the same guy, okay? They're wonderful during the regular season, okay? Kirk Cousins is money. Dak Prescott is money. But you know what? We're past that narrative with those two. We want to see what they do in the playoffs, okay? And that's where we're at. And that's why let's go ahead and fast forward to Sunday, the last game of the weekend, where I'm sorry, Mike, but I if I listen to all the radio and TV and ESPN and Fox and Colin Cowherd and all these other schmucks, I guess we might as well not even play the game on Sunday because according to every fucking clown I've listened to, Pat Mahomes doesn't know how to play on the road. Apparently, Pat Mahomes' right arm doesn't work on the road. Okay? Are you kidding me right now? You mean to tell me you're giving 15 4 points, and you're telling me that this guy doesn't know how to win on the road? Telling you right now.
The last time I saw the spread was 2.5 to 3. I guess they just don't think that he can play against Buffalo, and I don't think it's Pat Mahomes so much as the entire offense versus
you're right.
That they cannot keep up with Buffalo's offense. But here's the thing: Josh Allen can turn the ball over just as often as anybody else out there. And lately, listen, as far as I'm concerned, do I expect the Chiefs to win? They got a puncher's chance. If they play as well as they did last weekend, all right? They had one turnover. It was in garbage time. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a minute left in the fourth quarter. Big deal, when the game was already in the bag. Pat Mahomes was efficient. I think it was like 22 or 32 or something like that, 262 yards, 1 touchdown, but no interceptions, no lost fumbles, no stupid trick plays. They just went right at the defense, and they just kept it real. Now, the other thing, though, is Miami also played zone, a lot of zone, and Travis Kelce and Fitting, he just picked them apart. And you cannot – I mean, have they not been watching film of over the last 16 weeks? Let's face it. I mean, the Chiefs' offense is not what we're used to. And a lot of it is because, yes, they've lost some wide receivers, all right? The wide receivers they have can't catch the fucking ball. But also because they've been doubling Travis Kelce, and he's beat up. He's an old 34 years old. But Miami is like they didn't even get the game film from all year. I mean, it's just like so. I mean, the Bills are going to have to play man. They're going to have to double up Kelce and dare somebody else to beat him. Either it's going to be Rashee Rice, who I expect to continue to have.
Yeah, like he went off last week.
Now I know you don't give a shit about this, but Sky Moore is set to be activated.
I've already tweeted out. No
one knows. No one knows. No one notices. But yeah, and also continue to feed the ball to Isaiah Pacheco. All right.
Oh no, Isaiah Pacheco. And oh, by the way, let's one thing about our boy Josh Allen. And look, I'm a Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen. I mean,
you like the guys with a hand cannon.
I do love a guy with a hand cannon. Okay, and look, I'm a fan of Josh Allen. But the thing about Josh Allen that I also love is that Josh Allen's going to throw fucking interceptions. That's that's the other thing I love about Josh Allen. Okay. And oh, by the way, all right. So he didn't throw a pick against the Steelers. Whoop-de-doo. The Steelers were fucking awful. They should have gotten Florida State out of the playoffs. Okay. By the way, I heard something today, real quick, just a quick aside. If you're a Steelers fan, and I get why the whole I'm over Mike Tomlin, okay? And then, of course, nationally, everybody's like, well, he's never had a losing season. I don't give a fuck. Think about this. In the 17 seasons that he's been the head coach and has had 0 losing seasons, which, hey, kudos, okay?
Yeah.
I know we talk a lot about the fact that, he hasn't been to a playoff game since 2016, okay? Which, okay, everybody's like, dang, that's, or I'm sorry, hasn't won a playoff game. Since 2016, right? I heard a stat today. Do you realize that in the 17 years he's been a head coach, only 4 of those seasons he's actually won a playoff game?
Wow.
So I need to double check that, but a Steeler fan called in today, ranting and raving, talking about how, look, I'm over the Mike Tomlin stuff. Like, I'm tired of, look, we're about winning championships. We can't even win playoff games. Like, we're not even in the discussion. And he brought up a great point. He said, look, Big Ben was pretty damn good his last two, for that 16 and 17 season. Like, he hadn't completely fallen off a cliff yet. There were still 2 good seasons of Ben Roethlisberger. And oh, by the way, let's not forget all those seasons when you had Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, and your boy AB before he totally went off the fucking rails, okay, and was still somewhat still not still had a modicum of sense. Like, that offense, that group of the triplets with a good defense,
sure.
They were that Pittsburgh team was nuts when you had Todd Haley calling plays,
or Fast Willie Parker, right? I mean, in his first season.
Right? You had Mike, you had dadgummit. You had Mike, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I can see his face right here.
What position?
He was a wide receiver.
I mean, the one I'm thinking about is Plexico Burris, but I'm not sure if that's too.
He was after Plaxico.
Okay.
He was the opposite of Antonio Brown. I'll find it. But my point is, look, they had weapons, right? They had weapons. So anyway, that's my point.
That game was a 1-score game for a while.
What's that?
The Pittsburgh Buffalo game.
Look, if Pittsburgh had an offense, they might have won that game or at least made it more competitive. Mason Rudolph sucks. Mason Rudolph's terrible.
He wasn't. Well, I mean, maybe he had some throws in garbage time, but he was actually 22 of 39. He only turned the ball over once.
Yeah, but that pick was huge. That pick changed the whole game.
That pick was huge. And they were, what was it? They were like 5 of 11 on third downs, which is not terrible, but not great. But honestly, the Pittsburgh defense just couldn't get off the field either.
Look, they were respectable, right? Like, I mean, and that, I mean, look, considering that your offense is straight dog shit, and you were able to kind of hang around and linger until the middle of the fourth quarter. Okay. But guess what? That ain't going to happen on Sunday. All right. Because like I said, I feel like you have given, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Washington and Michigan in the national championship, about how, when good teams are always looking for, any angle or any kind of, hey, we're being counted out. When at the end of the day, they're never not. Right? Like, no one's counting championship teams out, right? You're just nitpicking shit. Well, right now, the Chiefs are being counted out, right? Like, the Chiefs are legitimately being counted out. Every national talking head is saying the same thing. Oh, no receivers. Which, look, I get. But at the end of the day, last I checked, it's still playoff football. It's still Pat Mahomes. And while they've goofed up a lot of shit, Andy Reid is still Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And you give my man a week. And by the way, let me ask you, Mike Babbo, one game, Sean McDermott, Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Enough said. Look,
because Andy Reid, aside from there was last year's playoff debacle. No, was it 2 years ago? I can't remember. They made a really bad choice in a halftime, some playoff or some clock.
Well, they should have squibbed the ball 2 years ago, and then instead of squibbing it, you let the Chiefs take it at the 25, and then 13 seconds later, boom.
Right, and then he ran a running play instead of a passing play with no timeouts at the end of the half. I can't remember what team that was against, but it was in the playoffs 2 years ago. It's just like, what the heck? But I just think that Andy Reid is a much better playoff field general than Sean McDermott. Listen, I think a lot of it has to do with the aura of playing in Buffalo in January with the cold and with the wind. But guess what? The Chiefs just went through that.
The Chiefs just dealt with that.
They just dealt with that. I mean, they just played in the 4th coldest game in NFL history.
In NFL, I'm telling you. No,
and they did okay. They scored 26 friggin' points.
And really, honestly, should have scored. I mean, look, they should have put a 40-burger up.
Yeah.
They should have put a 40 burger up on Miami. I mean, that game, that was the proverbial, the game wasn't near as close as the final score would indicate. I mean, that game, 26
And let me tell you something. L'Jarius Sneed balled.
Oh,
he held Tyreek Hill down.
Tyreek had one big play, and that was it.
That was it. That was it.
That was it. It is criminal the way the rest of the NFL treats L'Jarius Sneed. Like the fact that he didn't even get a alternate vote for the Pro Bowl lets me know just how moronic the voting process is. Like, there's no reason why L'Jarius Sneed should not be a Pro Bowler in 2020.
Well, I mean, you can just blame his brethren because they're part of the voting process.
His who?
His brethren. His
absolutely, yeah. And the other part of it is that L'Jarius Sneed is not a rah guy.
No,
like L'Jarius Sneed is a
lunch pail,
shows up to work, clocks in, puts in his 12 hours, and then gets the fuck out. And you don't hear a word from him. So that's
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
All right. We'll run through. I'm going to give my picks probably tomorrow. So we'll get yours today, Peter Mike Babbo. Let's go with the first game of the weekend. We've got Houston. We've got Baltimore. I want to say it's a 7.5 point spread at the moment.
Actually, I've got my betting line. It's at 9.5, but I think at ESPN it shows at 9.
Ooh,
yeah, that's a big number in the playoffs, buddy. I love the way that Lamar Jackson has been playing, but I also love the way that CJ Stroud has been playing. He's got his guys, and I'm not counting out D'Amico Ryans again. I'm taking Baltimore to win, but I'm taking the points.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm gonna take the 9.5 points.
Houston covers. Baltimore wins. I couldn't agree more. Look, there's part of me that wants to jump on I think the Texans could win bandwagon, which, look, they absolutely could. I'm not saying they couldn't. Look, the bottom line is going to be, Mike, is, what do we get out of Lamar Jackson on Saturday, right? I mean, look, CJ Stroud's the Texans are playing with house money. We know that, right? Yes. So the Texans can go out there. Now, look, do we want to see them go out there and lay an egg like most of the teams that lost this last weekend did? I don't think that's going to happen because, look, D'Amico's got these boys playing on all cylinders and firing on all cylinders, and you've got CJ Stroud who doesn't know what he doesn't know and is just out there just slanging it, okay? Right. And I would argue is a better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson. But Lamar's Lamar. He also had almost 1,000 yards rushing this season. Right. You might get Mark Andrews back, which even if you do, you still got Isaiah Likely, who's been playing out of his freaking mind in the last few weeks. You've got a healthy Odell Beckham Jr., and you've got a healthy Zay Flowers. So, again, and this is a good defense. So, look, Baltimore, there's a reason why they're the number 1 seed. I'm not calling for an upset, but I do think the Texans are going to make it competitive. But I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to do enough. I think there's going to be an inadvertent turnover, and I think that's going to be enough. And so you see like a 31-21 type score where Baltimore scores kind of a garbage touchdown there at the end.
Well, I hope it's not 31-21, then I'm losing my bet.
What's that?
I hope it's not 31-21.
Oh, yeah, like 27-21 or something like that. Yeah, you know what I mean? Let's hope not. It's not 31.
D'Amico's got his work cut out for him because Baltimore, as you just pointed out, has a ton of weapons, and they may get a huge one back. Although, like you said, Isaiah Likely has been playing lights out, the second-year man. Where do you come from? SMU, I think.
Who's that?
Isaiah Likely.
That's a good question. By the way, just in. Cowboys keeping Mike McCarthy as head coach for 2024.
I'm not surprised because here's the thing: with Dan Quinn with one foot out the door, and Mike McCarthy wasn't the problem of that ball game. Dak Prescott and the defense was the problem in that ball game. Mike McCarthy's offense has been humming. Okay, they've certainly improved since Kellen Moore took his talents to Southern California. And he, like I said, I mean, what are you going to do if you fire your head coach and your defensive coordinator leaves, and if you fire your head coach, then whoever you bring in is going to be bringing in his own people. You're going to start all over with one of the oldest rosters in the NFL. That'd be rough.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not. That's tough, you know. I mean, Mike McCarthy, but here's the thing about Mike McCarthy. You just like the guy was the coach. I mean, he had Aaron Rodgers in his prime for a decade,
and he had one Super Bowl,
and think about it, Mike. Only went to one Super Bowl. I mean, it's not. I mean, you know, say what you want about Pat Mahomes. I mean, at least he's been to 3. You know, say what you want about TB12. He still lost 3. I mean, the dude went to what 10? I think when it was all said and done.
Yeah, so, 7 out of 10. Insane.
I mean, think about it. I mean, that thing about Mike McCarthy is like, look, we know he's a great.
With a lot less talent, right? Offensively.
What's that?
Tom Brady had a lot less talent around him than fucking.
I'm not gonna say that. I think we get.
Did Tom Brady ever had anybody with the talent of CeeDee Lamb? Anybody?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had Randy Moss
for like 3 seasons. Right?
It was a pretty fucking insane 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb can actually be better than Randy Moss. I don't know.
You're tripping. You're only mad because you're only hating because he went to LA and
motherfucker quit. No, he went to Oakland and he quit. The fucking clown quit.
He said CeeDee Lamb could be better than Randy.
I can't. I know so because I'm hating.
You absolutely are, and I appreciate the fact that you admit that you are.
Okay, well, sorry, but okay. So he had Randy Moss, but he had Wes Welker, he had all those guys,
and then we forget too. I mean, look, we forget he had Gronk for damn near a decade too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you know, and he had Aaron Hernandez before Aaron Hernandez, you know, went off the fucking reservation. We forget, like, look, I know we get seduced into this whole like, well, who did Tom Brady have to throw to? And it's like, well, after we get it. The first 3 or 4 years of Tom Brady's career, he was not the throwing it because he didn't have to, right? That defense was insane. Anyway,
okay, but the thing is that the competition for the New England Patriots reminds me in the AFC East reminds me of what the Niners had to go through in the 90s.
They were
nothing. Okay, the Jets were a mess. The fucking Bills were a mess. The Dolphins were a total mess. All right, they cakewalked to the playoffs for 20 some years. Really.
Oh,
recently have the Bills been worth a shit? Really?
All right, so you got Houston covering, Baltimore winning on Saturday. The second game of that Saturday night stretch is Green Bay, San Francisco. What do you have spread-wise for that game?
That's also 9.
Hey.
Yeah, Niners by 9. Actually, this also shows Niners 9.5.
Okay,
and I'm taking the Niners to cover. I really think they have a lot to prove. Now, it all depends. So these next 2 games that we're going to talk about, the Niners and Packers and the Lions and Buccaneers, it all centers around the home team's quarterbacks. If they take care of the rock, if Brock Purdy and Jared Goff take care of the rock, home team wins. When Brock Purdy was on that 6-game winning streak before he met Baltimore, he had 2 turnovers. That's it. Against Baltimore, 4 INTs. And he got benched because it's like, okay, Kyle Shanahan said, buddy, it's not your night. You know, whatever. Yeah. Taking nothing away from Baltimore. But remember, the Niners were up 5-0. Lamar Jackson actually was sacked with a safety to start the scoring.
Yeah.
And then Jake Moody kicked a 40-some yard field goal. It was 5-0. The Niners were on their way. They were at home, right? They were going to show the entire NFL world that they were the boss, and then all of a sudden the wheels fell off. Because they were driving. They were actually driving to score, and then Purdy threw an interception in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all hell broke loose. If Purdy takes care of the football, the Niners win and they cover. Same thing with Jared Goff. Jared Goff, what did he do against against the Packers Thanksgiving Day, right? No interceptions, but he fumbled the ball 3 times.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it's like 21-0.
So who do you like in Tampa Bay, Detroit?
I like the Lions.
Yeah.
To cover.
And that spread is what?
6.5.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. And then last but certainly not least, so you've got a San Francisco Detroit NFC Championship. So Babbo, San Francisco, Detroit, and then the real question that we're all dying to know the answer to, Baltimore and...
You mean, no, Buffalo and the Chiefs.
No, that's what I'm saying. But you've already picked Buffalo. Or excuse me,
I'm sorry.
So that's what I'm saying.
No,
your AFC championship opponent of the Baltimore.
The AFC championship.
That's correct.
I took the 2.5. I think they have a puncher's chance. I think if they don't do any stupid, crazy trick plays, they've got to control the clock. They got to give Isaiah Pacheco the ball. Yeah. It really all depends upon how Buffalo plays Travis Kelce. And leave Sky Moore on the bench. Do not put him. I mean, you can use him as a decoy if you want, but the motherfucker's been out for like 4 or 5 weeks, right?
Who, Sky Moore?
Yeah, and he was shit.
Look, Sky Moore's not getting in. Sky Moore's not getting in. Look, I'm going to call it right now. I bet he's a healthy scratch on Sunday.
Fair enough.
There's no. I mean, look. If you'd have told me Sky Moore was nobody in Chiefs Kingdom, as they like to call it, remembers 24 of the last 4 weeks. No. He's the kind of guy that when he's gone, you're like, like if Kelsey's gone, he's gone. If Rashee Rice is gone, he's gone. When Pacheco's gone, he's gone. Like you feel it. 24's gone, and we're kind of like, oh wow, look, Richie James steps up. Now Mecole Hardman can go fuck himself. Okay, Mecole Hardman can go fuck himself.
And why can Mecole Hardman? Why can Mecole? What's that?
He quit on 2 plays the other night, to the point where one time on one of the plays he stopped running. Chris Jones jumped up and started yelling at him from the sideline for pulling up at the end. So I'm tired of Mecole Hardman. Everybody's like, oh, well, maybe he could be a difference maker. Fuck Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman ain't making any difference. You and I have talked about it. Look, I applaud the fact that he's always able to weasel his way into the social media pictures, how he always finds himself next to Travis Kelce, how he always finds himself next to Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's that guy. He's great at being that guy, okay? But you know what he's not great at? Catching the football and playing wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. That being said, you like the Chiefs to cover, but who do you like to win?
I mean, it's only a 2.5 point spread, really.
You like Kansas City? Go ahead and say it.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Although, I mean, I kind of
let it out. Let it out.
I may lose on this. I may lose my parlay on this game.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
Okay.
Look, I already told. Look, I said I'm putting my picks out tomorrow, but I'm telling you right now, Chiefs all day, every day tomorrow.
Of course you say that. I mean, come on, Fred. When was the last time you bet against the Chiefs? The Reagan administration.
No, I picked against the Chiefs pretty routinely pre-Pat Mahomes. Pre-Pat Mahomes. I mean, come on, it's Alex Smith at quarterback, for God's sake.
Since football Jesus came into your life, how many times have you bet against the Chiefs? 0.
Change everything. I have picked the Chiefs. I'll put it to you like this, Mike Babel. I'll put it to you like this. This will be my final take of the night. So I have picked the Kansas Jayhawks to win the NCAA tournament every year since, I don't know, 1995, 1994, whatever it is. Okay. Probably earlier than that. I mean, whatever I did, I don't remember my first bracket, but I probably did my first bracket when I was in middle school, maybe late elementary, early 90s. Okay. There was 1 year I didn't pick the Jayhawks to win a national championship. We really weren't that good that year. I think we got bounced out in the first or second round, and I picked Wake Forest to win that year, and they got bounced out in like round 2. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going down with my boys every year. Now, I've been right twice.
You be true to your school.
I've been right twice. I've been right in 2008. I've been right in 20, whatever. What would we win? 2021, 2022, whatever it was. So I've been right twice in my life when it comes to that. So
I'll
tell you this.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I'm going to pick them again this year, too.
Of course.
But that being said, as long as Pat Mahomes is upright, as long as Pat Mahomes is the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, you will never see me pick against them. Regular season, I'll pick against them regular season because it doesn't matter. Okay? Who gives a fuck, right? I said it last summer. I said the Chiefs would lose to Denver in Denver. My son lambasted me. And guess what? We lost to Denver in Denver. Okay? Great.
Yeah, but you also said there was no way in hell they were losing to the Raiders.
They shouldn't have lost to the Raiders. I mean, we shouldn't have. The reason why we lost to the Raiders
was right there for
Andy Reid wants to play.
It was right there.
you
It
know,
was right there
grab
for the
ass.
The Raiders were trending up, and the Chiefs were trending down. That was the low point of their season. You can't deny that.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. It absolutely was. But here's and the best part about that is we lost that game.
You should have seen that coming.
What's that?
You should have seen that coming.
Look, I didn't expect the Chiefs offense to decide, let's play fucking grab ass for fucking 3-4.
Or hot potato with the football 2 plays.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I did not expect the offense to go complete implosion mode, which, you know what? That's one of those proverbial, when you look back, it actually worked out well for us, right? Because if we go on this run, sometimes, Mike, and you know this, sometimes you just need to be slapped around. And of course, you know what was the worst part about that game? Not so much the actual loss itself. I mean, that sucked. But watching Raiders Twitter act like they had just won a Super Bowl. I mean, bro, are you fuck the
It was
Chiefs.
our Super Bowl.
It's
it
like,
was
bro,
our Super Bowl.
and I get it. It was. And you know
what?
what?
Because what we the torture and the trials and tribulations that we have gone through over the last 18 months with that shithead.
No, I get it.
That Patriot shithead as a coach. Okay.
People were excited.
And we have been bitch slapped by the Chiefs for the last 5 years. Okay.
Rightfully so. No, you're right. You're right.
So it was our Super Bowl.
So that was, to me, probably the most upsetting aspect of that loss was all the Raider fans just losing their collective minds afterwards. It was a combination of, we've got to go hire AP to fuck the Chiefs.
Fred,
and
why don't you take that as a compliment? The fact that it was,
it is. It absolutely
right.
is.
It was such a shock. It was something that we were just so incredible. No, look, I'm being completely honest with you, Fred. I kind of saw it coming. I really did. I said, you know what? If the Raiders play mistake-free football, and if they continue to play the defense which they have been,
yeah.
You know, I mean, look, fucking Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass in the last 3 quarters of the game.
But that's what I'm getting at.
But my point is that it was such a seminal moment that it was just like, okay, the Chiefs should take that. Chiefs fans should take that as a compliment because it was just like, holy shit, this, you know, the Red Sea part of it.
The fact that, I mean, it was pretty depressing from a Chiefs standpoint. It's like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that our offense is that fucking inept, that our defense held their quarterback completionless in the National Football League for 3 quarters, and yet our fucking offense, with maybe the greatest quarterback of this generation, and we can't even outscore this fucking turd Ferguson? So, but hey, it is what it is.
The thing was also is that, look, the Chiefs offense has, like we said, it's been, you know, not what we're used to, but also the Raiders defense since AP came in, they're the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL at 15.8 points per game.
Yeah. Well, the defense balled. I'll give you that. The defense played its ass off. And it certainly did it to the Chiefs. That's why, you know, when I hear people say, you know, I think it was Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated who said, you know, if he's the Raiders, he blows the whole thing up and trades Devontae, trades Max Crosby, and starts from scratch. And it's like, bro, you can't do that. Like, you've got a good enough roster as it is right now that if you had, I mean, you know, the Raiders are in that same situation, and we've talked about this time and time again. You know, the Raiders are in that same situation where you're a coach and a quarterback away. Right now from, I mean, look, if the Raiders, I'm just going to say this, and then we'll move on and we'll wrap this thing up. If AP stays with the Raiders and you get a quarterback, all right, and then the Chargers are going to let's just say the Chargers get Harbaugh or Belichick, just for shits and giggles, or Vrabel, okay? They get one of those 3 guys.
Yeah.
Okay? And the Denver Broncos are still going to be Denver, and they're going to have another year of Sean Payton under their belt, and they'll probably move on from Russell Wilson, so all that rigmarole will be moved on from. I'm going to tell you right now, the AFC West could easily be 10 wins, get you the division next year. If you bring in the Chiefs, Denver and Sean Payton, AP and the Raiders and whatever quarterback they get, and then whatever the Chargers do, that's going to be the AFC West. For as much as we've talked about this division over the last couple of years and what it's supposed to be, and it's never panned out either year. No. Next year, third time could be the charm when the AFC West is finally maybe the most gruesome division in football.
Well, 10-7 won the division this year, right?
11-6.
11-6. I'm sorry.
11-6.
Yeah, I can see that happening, and also, but the thing is that people keep on talking about, oh, you know, now that there's rumors on Twitter that the Raiders are going to interview and get Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator. Oh, because he has a connection with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is coming to Vegas. Hello. Caleb Williams is going to be gone by the time the Raiders pick number 13, and they are not going to mortgage the fucking future for Caleb Williams, who, in my opinion, is not that guy. Okay, he's got, as far as I'm concerned, he's got personality issues. I just
I can live with personality issues if the guy still balls on Sundays, though.
Fuck him. I mean, I just see too much USC quarterback flame out in him. Really. I mean,
I was torn on him until I heard Phil Simms talk about him. And when I heard Phil Simms say basically the same thing that you and I have been saying, that he was a little leery about him and that all the hype was too much, then he said when he watched the tape and saw him, he was like, okay, no, this guy's like...
Fuck that. I saw the same shit out of Jamarcus Russell. We saw the same shit out of Jeff.
Yeah, but we're a little more advanced as far as how...
Are we really? Are we really? If we were more advanced...
Absolutely. Look, we haven't seen anybody flame out to the extent that Jamarcus Russell did.
Oh, I don't know. Bryce Young's already halfway on his way. I know he's going to get a new coach.
Yeah, but let's look. But Bryce Young isn't... here's the thing. Bryce Young isn't drinking lean and not watching tape. Like, that's the difference.
Purple drink, yeah.
Like, Bryce Young is a byproduct of the fact that Carolina's a shit show, and he's 5'9".
Okay, well, my point is that Caleb Williams, I think, has some character issues. I don't think that he has a leadership quality. I don't even think he has the leadership qualities Aiden O'Connell has. Okay? Give me the guy who is – no, I'm serious. Every guy in that locker room wants.
I'm going to let you wax poetic here for a second. But if you try to tell me if you finish this next sentence by saying that you would rather have Aiden O'Connell than Caleb Williams,
I didn't say that.
Okay,
I said that he can lead a locker room. I don't think Caleb Williams can. I'll tell you what. Who can lead a locker room is the guy who was in the locker room in AP's post-game speech after the Week 18 victory against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
You know who it was? The Heisman Trophy winner himself, Jaden Daniels. You know why? Because AP recruited him to Arizona State.
Oh, now I'm telling you, though, I don't think he's going to – look, the only way you're getting somebody like that
if he trades up
is if you trade up. Because like Jaden Daniels ain't going to be there at 13. Now, I'll tell you who might be there at 13, and I'll say this, and then we'll talk about this later on another show.
Okay.
Your boy Penix.
Yeah.
Michael Penix.
Listen, there's no shame in what happened. Look, he made a couple of bad reads. I get it. But there's no shame in losing to that Michigan defense. They were nasty.
The defense was brutal, bro. That Michigan defense was
they were nasty. Fuck. They got after.
Not to mention, look, and you're right. I mean, you and I talked about this. Look, there were some throws he missed that might have changed the entire dynamic of the football game. I get that. But to your point, look, that dude was under duress.
But at the same time, too, Washington's defense was terrible. Okay? Washington's defense was terrible.
The defense was bad. They couldn't tackle to save their life. They were getting bullied off the ball. I mean,
they got dashed for 2 70-yard runs and back to back.
I mean, look, Michigan pretty much went on cruise control in the second half. I mean, that thing was over.
All right.
But no, the trenches, the trenches were the difference. Michael Penix, like you said, I mean, because look, because for as great as they were able to look against Texas the week before, Michigan just pretty much you can tell the better coach team and just the better. And plus, let's call it what it is. Michigan had 44 seniors on that football team. So, anywho, let's recap real quick. Our boy Bitter Mike Babbo has a NFC Championship game shaping up with San Francisco and Detroit. Can't say that I think that's a horrible decision. And he's got the AFC side, Baltimore and Kansas City. And let's just say that I'm feeling very, very comfortable with Michael Babbo's picks for this weekend. So, anywho, look, we got our boy Chris Hodge coming on tomorrow, takingvegas.com. He's going to be jumping on with me tomorrow. We're doing that at 12:30 Central Time, 1:30 Eastern, so make sure you check out that. I'm sure he'll give out at least one teaser. And then, of course, friend of the program and our Hall of Fame nominee of the show, Bitter Mike Babbo. Bitter Mike's in the Raiders Hall of Fame, by the way. But our own Henry Thomas. We'll be doing the show live from Casa de Tomas tomorrow, so make sure a twofer tomorrow. So make sure you get your minds ready for that. And then, of course, this weekend. Now, you come back from New York when?
Monday.
So you will be spending the weekend in New York. Tell me you're going to be in front of a television for the playoff games.
Oh, no question about it. As a matter of fact, my cousin's widower, I threw up the idea of going to a hockey game because I haven't been to a hockey game in 15 years.
Yeah.
And I love watching hockey
You think
live.
this weekend's the weekend to do it, though?
Huh?
You think this weekend's the weekend to do it with the football?
No, he shot it down. He said, because you know what? He said, I'll get you tickets, but by 4:30 p.m., I'm in front of my TV. And I said, okay, fine. Then I'll be in front of your TV as well.
Good for
I said, you're going to feed me? He's like, yeah, of course I'll feed you. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, did he qualify what size television he's working with? Because we got to make
Oh,
sure.
we'll go to a bar or maybe. I mean, but
Okay.
his, I don't know. I mean, his house is it's a 3-story flat in Union City, New Jersey. It's a great
brownstone
house.
type.
I would say so. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, look, we're talking about Union City, New Jersey, so it's urban setting, right? It's crammed in and such. It was actually built using containers, and they brought in these containers and they just stacked them, and then they started knocking the walls out. It was pretty amazing. He showed me pictures. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at the very least, what's the temp supposed to be in Uniontown?
Oh God, it's going to be like 18 degrees. We're going to be wheels down Friday evening, and it's supposed to snow.
Well, I mean, look, it's been shitty weather all week. I mean, we're here in Texas. We have seen some bad weather, but it's starting to warm up. So Mike can't get enough of it. And he's going back to the cold this weekend. So, all right. Well, look, go follow Bit of Mike at the Bit of Mike on both Instagram as well as X. And then, of course, you guys can follow me, the Freddie D, on X as well as Instagram. Also, like I said, be sure not to miss tomorrow. 12:30, Chris Hodge taking Vegas, Henry Thomas. That'll be around 6-ish, give or take. So get your minds right for all of that. Bit of Mike Babbo, always glad to have you on the program. Be sure to like and subscribe to Chief Studios if you haven't done it already. For the one, the only Bit of Mike, I'm still that dude, Fred D. From H-Town to Kansas City, West Coast to the East Coast, San Antonio, and all points in between. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Boom.